Light FM. It's Mike and the Mechanics. I'm Dave. We're at 8:41 here, 19 before 9. Advisory services offered through Second Half Financial Partners, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The opinions voiced and information provided in this material are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments are appropriate for you, please consult with a financial advisor. Second Half Financial Partners, LLC does not provide tax or legal advice. Please consult your tax or legal advisor regarding your particular situation. By all means, it's time to check in and see what you ought to be consulting your financial planner about, and that's the stock market and what's going on in the economy these days. Philip Statler from Statler Financial Services in downtown Sebring on the telephone. And Philip, you and I are going to have to just take our pocket calculators and throw them against the wall because it obviously isn't the same brand the government uses, right?
It doesn't seem to be anyway. When we look at some of the numbers, that the monthlies don't seem to add up to the annuals. I'm not sure exactly how they pulled those numbers out, but they're just they just don't add up.
No, it doesn't. What we're referring to is our first big inflation bit of news on the week, and that's the Producer Price Index, wholesale inflation. The market expected it. One of my tip sheets said they were expecting a big 1.1% bump last month. One of them was saying 1.2%. No matter which one it is, we only went up by 0.5% last month on wholesale inflation. Now, that should be hoo-ha great news, but this is where you get to the point of throwing our calculators away, because the annualized number, on the other hand, went up from 3.4% to 4%, and somehow somebody must have pushed a button, or we need to get rid of another government statistician, Philip. That doesn't make any sense to me.
It doesn't to me either. It must be some rounding numbers in there somewhere. It's the only thing I can think of is that, they finally rounded it up for the annuals.
I just don't get it yet. Like I said, government statistics, liars figure and statistics don't lie, but liars used to. Forget it. Bottom line is, yesterday, with an absence of a lot of really earth-shaking stuff going on, except for Goldman Sachs starting the earnings season out with their report, we had a party. The Dow was up by 0.6%, 302 points. The S&P was up by more than a full percent, $69 up, and that gets them within inches of an all-time record. Can't really tell there's a war on. NASDAQ was up by 1.25%, up 281 points, and the Russell 2000 had the biggest party of the bunch. It was up a full 1.5%. Can't tell there's a war on. Everybody's happy on Wall Street all of a sudden. What the heck gives?
They are happy right now, but it's a minute by minute choice because the volatility has been there, right? Because I looked at the market at noon yesterday or somewhere around there, and it did not look like this. Okay. It definitely in the afternoon took off. So that's, I'm not sure what people are looking at. I mean, we've got the Strait of Hormuz blocked off now, evidently. And I just heard this morning that President Trump said, if any Iranian ships come close, they're going to get blown up to pieces. Yeah.
And you and I have both been ruminating over the months and months and now over a year about President Trump's tendency to overstate negotiating in public in the process. When he was talking before the ceasefire about wiping out an entire civilization, it sounded just absolutely Armageddonish and probably overstatement, but this negotiating in public, just, I don't know. But nevertheless, we do have the ports of Iran blockaded now. I don't know whether that means we're going to try to let any of the other tankers through from other flagged countries, but it's definitely kind of the next step up, which is why it confuses me about why our markets are so doggone happy about it all. I mean, I'm pretty circumspect in terms of reacting to what the administration says. Maybe it's scar tissue from looking at overstatements and saying, oh no, and finding out it's a negotiating ploy. But still, this doesn't sound like a reason to celebrate to me, does it to you?
No, not it doesn't. It seems to me like, and oil prices aren't going up either. So I mean, it's like, I just can't figure it out right now.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned oil prices were actually below $100 a barrel this morning during a time frame where we're blockading Iran's ports. None of it makes a whole heck of a lot of sense. And evidently, yesterday, Goldman Sachs couldn't make sense of it either because they beat the street. They had a good report, but then they issued guidance that said, we aren't too sure what's going on. There's both headwinds and tailwinds going on. So they basically gave a real spotty set of guidance for the upcoming quarter, and that ended up trading them down. We're now breaking the floodgates for earnings season because it's big financial day today. What do we got from the big financials? J.P. Morgan was among the big crowd that reported early on this morning. How are they saying anyway?
They did. J.P. Morgan, along with other banks, reported today, and they beat significantly on earnings and revenue as well. It said, revenue rose like 10%. Net income rose by 13%. Some nice numbers. It seems like the banking industry did well when it came to fixed income trading.
I was reading, yeah.
JP Morgan's revenue from that was up 21%. So everything looked really good, except for, again, it comes to guidance, right? And so we've got JP Morgan basically lowered its guidance for 2026 for the full year. And, when you do that, you're not liked a whole lot. And so they're trading down 1.2% this morning. And if you look at that and you look at Citibank, which kind of in the same boat, they beat on earnings, beat on revenue, but they've kind of flipped the script because now they're in the process of, cutting expenses and revitalizing themselves. The CEO says they're 90% there. And so they're actually trading up today, almost 1.4%. So
Citibank is kind of interesting to me because they're heavily consumer driven with their big credit card business. I'm pleasantly surprised to see them beating the street and actually feeling fairly optimistic because that's an indication of the consumer side too.
It is. It is. So that's kind of good news there. I think it was JP Morgan said that their loan losses were $500 million. Yeah, $500 million less than expected. So that was some good news for them too. Another financial reported BlackRock in the first quarter. They did well. And so they are trading up 1.6% this morning. So we had a couple of other things other than banks report. We had Johnson & Johnson reported. They beat by about 4 cents a share, revenue ahead of expectations. Full year guidance was slightly better than expected. I guess not enough. They're trading down about 1.25% this morning before we get trading. A couple tidbits, though, to kind of close out with. United Airlines has floated a balloon to the president about merging or buying American Airlines, combining those two things together. To me, it sounds like a bad idea. It sounds like airline prices would go up as if they're not up enough already, Dave.
I was going to say I'm not really a big fan of bloodbaths and bankrupt airlines, but you can get too big too, and eventually you control all the routes, don't you?
Exactly. And then Amazon, we talked, I don't know, probably last week or the week before about how Amazon is putting together their own fleet of satellites to create their own satellite network to compete against Starlink. And so to help them in that venture, they announced actually this morning that they're going to purchase a company called Globalstar. And so that's got Globalstar up 10% this morning.
That's intriguing. It's kind of an interesting time to make that announcement, too, because I'm seeing tidbits out there, just folks reminding everybody that as SpaceX gets close to their initial public offering, got to keep in mind a big integral part of that in terms of the growth is their Starlink system. So having another company saying, hey, we're putting up our own satellites, that probably takes a little bit of the bloom off of Elon Musk's IPO for SpaceX, doesn't it?
It does. And I'll just talk about IPOs for just a minute, Dave, as we kind of close out. The one thing I've learned over the years is that when IPOs come out, they're a hot commodity, right? But the people that really truly make money are the people that got in before the IPO. Venture capitalists, they're the ones that make the majority of the money on a lot of those deals. Um, and so we just need to remember that when we start thinking about some of these IPOs and when they come about.
You know, it always seems legendary. A point's well taken that the IPO comes out, the strike price at the outset is $20 a share to pull a number out of a hole. And yeah, at the end of the day, it gets traded up to 40 or 50, and then everybody starts buying in, and then it ends up settling back down again. And everybody that bought at the peak of that IPO day saying, I got on the ground floor, find out they're really on the first or their second or third floor up, and then it's a risk investment by then, generally.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right,
Absolutely.
Dave. So, but we look at that and say, okay, and remember, I don't know if folks may not remember, but Delta has signed up basically with Amazon to use this, they call it Leo, um, um, satellite system for their airplanes, their jets when they finally launch it, and it's supposed to launch, I think, in 2027.
Cool. Try and play Angry Birds on the airplane next time I
There you
fly up
go.
north.
There you go.
It'd be just a high point in my life. Resetting the table yesterday bordered on party day on Wall Street with 300 plus point gains on the Dow, 281 on the NASDAQ. 45 minutes before we open this morning, what are we looking at today?
Not a lot of movement in the Dow. It has finally become positive. It's up about a tenth of a percent. It had been down earlier because of Goldman Sachs. S&P 500 up about two tenths of a percent. The Nasdaq 100 is up almost a half a percent. The Russell 2000 seems to still be on fire. It's up about six tenths of a percent this morning. On the other side, we've got silver making great strides again, up 2.5%. Gold's up about almost a half a percent, and crude oil heading down by a little over 3% to $95.94 a barrel.
Another one of those things that makes no sense. We blockade the Iranian ports and the price of crude goes down.
Go
just
figure.
just kind of makes you want to bang your head against a wall, even if I like what happened. By and large, the European community was up halfway through their trading day today, halfway through the trading day in the European community. They're kind of joining our party. The average index is up by 0.8%. Over in the Asian Rim, the Chinese markets closed up resoundingly at the close around 6 a.m., over a full percentage point. Virtually the rest of the Asian Rim was also up this morning at their close many, many hours ago. Getting my retirement together to follow what's going on day to day, probably not the best advice. Take some plan. How do I find you to make a plan for my retirement?
Then give us a call at 863-382-0037. We'd love to sit down with you and make sure that you've got everything lined up for that retirement you always dreamed of. And then catch the Statler Financial Radio Show this weekend, 6 a.m. and noon on Saturday, 10 a.m. Sunday morning on Highlands News Talk, 7:30 a.m. and 95.3 FM.
And newstalk730am.com, where we'll stream it as well. Good to hear your voice, my friend. I'll catch you tomorrow morning. Fair enough?
All right, buddy. Have a great day.
Thank you. It's 105.7 Light FM and Statler Financial Services. Philip Statler.
Hey, folks, again, I want to thank you for joining us today. I'm so excited that you're here with us. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow as we talk about what's happening in the current marketplace. Until then, have a great day. Bye now.